Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of my podcast. Usually, I'm doing these solo reflections and sharing my journey. But today, I'm going to have a guest. So last week, I was not in a super good mood to record the episode, to be honest, and I've shared that on my previous episode. But before recording, I asked on Twitter, I'm not in a super good mood. What should I do? Should I do it? Should I cancel? And some people suggest, why don't you interview someone? And then was one of those people suggesting that. So we decided, let's have a chat. Let's record our chat, and maybe we can do a podcast about it. And we had a very interesting talk, nearly about an hour. But I don't want you to put all the conversation in the podcast, but just extract very interesting topics that we talk about. But before jumping into those topics, I want to introduce Daniel, my guest of the podcast today. So Daniel is an entrepreneur based in Bucharest, in Romania. He's building many different products for several years already. And lately, he's more focused on info products. He really likes to write and to share his knowledge. So that's what he's focusing on. Currently, he's working on a book about LangChain and JavaScript. So I suggest you have a look on JS Craft. But in this conversation, we are not addressing too much those areas. We are more talking about entrepreneurship in general and creating meaningful connections and personality traits. And that's the topic that we started to our conversation about personality traits. And Daniel is sharing his view in this area and how this is important to understand the different personalities as an entrepreneur.
Look, we have some traits built in our personality, like if you are an introvert or an extrovert. And that more or less you cannot change. You cannot change how tall you are, or you cannot change the color of your eyes or your hair or so on. And exactly like this, you have these characteristics in your personality, like if you are an extrovert. But also there is another dimension named if you are a creative persona or someone who is industrious, I think was the term. I may be getting it wrong.
Don't know that one.
Yeah. So you are or the type of guy who likes to go and play and make stuff and do things on his or her own terms, or the type of human who wants to have like boundaries, to have not boundaries, rules, to be part of a mechanism. And again, this is something that you are not able to change. So it doesn't matter if for you, I don't know, you want to be a employee of your life or your life, but if you have this creative itch in yourself, you cannot.
Yeah, I totally see that.
Yeah, it's almost impossible for you. There is a mix between, and indeed, at one point in time, one type of society may favor one character, one type of personality versus the other. So, indeed, if you take it into account the rate of failure in entrepreneurship, we can say that these days is not that very easy to make it as an entrepreneurship, not easy at all. So his advice was basically exactly this: try, build your safety net as an employee, more or less suck it up. It is what it is, and try. And indeed, there are a lot of good things that can happen to you, and you learn a lot of things, especially be humble as a employee, because you at least it was in my case, I worked with super smart guys, and you get very humble very fast. I mean, you're not.
That's totally true. I remember when I finished my studies, I was also working on a startup while finishing the studies. And everybody was saying, you can try and work and to build a company and try as entrepreneurship. There was already a movement back then of people talking about it. But I always said to myself, I don't feel ready yet. So I don't know I'll be able to do it. I need to see how the world works. Then afterwards, I might be able to do it because even before going to the university, I was already trying small projects on the side and also selling some small services with friends. So I was already with this willingness of building things, but I didn't feel ready. So then I went to the corporate world and working as a software engineer and then project manager because I didn't feel really ready for the entrepreneur world. But then at some point I was also in the US, living in the US. And then this willingness came and now I cannot go back.
Indeed.
It's really
Yeah,
like to try different things and see
yeah,
what works. This creative mind,
yeah,
people tend to think that the creativity, it's also more art and
yeah.
this type of
No, no,
things.
no, no. It's
But on the software engineers, in entrepreneurship, there's so much creativity going
exact,
on.
exactly. And I feel, I know but it's an adventure. I know it's fun. It sounds, but it's an adventure. And the fact that you make decisions in a company, and again, I'm not saying because a lot of good things are happening inside companies, like really. And I've been lucky to have like very good mentors inside different companies and fantastic people to work with. But on the other side, like when you are on your own, it's just you and your laptop. It's an adventure, and it's nice. You feel alive. I don't know. You feel like at the end of, if you are an employee, at the end of the month, more or less the outcome is the same. You get that paycheck and so on.
Mm-hmm.
As an entrepreneur, but on the other side, it's also boring. I mean, you always stand up 9 a.m., same meetings, same things. Things move super slow. You cannot decide your path. You're not free. On the other side, as an entrepreneur, yeah, you're super hyped. It's super fun. It's, as I said, an adventure, but man, it's so hard sometimes. And, I think this entrepreneurship more or less is like life. If you take like an animal in the forest, that guy is a hustler. It's like the real entrepreneur. He has to decide to go to search for food and get better at it and try not to be eaten by something else and so on. And I think this is the much more natural way of things. This is like going there, being on your own, hustling, being alive. I think this is
It's coming a little bit back to the roots of
yeah.
human beings. Kind of.
I remember my grandfather. I mean, my grandfather was like a super poor farmer in Romania, in a village in Romania, and he worked his ass from like 6 in the morning until. But he was free. It's fun, but like he was poor. I think he traveled in 2 cities. That's it, the closest cities to his village. But on the other side, I never heard of him, like he was tired but he was tired physically, not mentally. He was doing everything that he done. He, I don't know, take care of the plants, of the animals and so on, because that was his business. That was, and he never, I cannot ever seen my grandfather being burnout. Like, yeah, tired, yes, disappointed, but never burnout. And on the other side, on these days, yeah, we have a lot of luxury. If you are smart, I don't know, you can work for 1 year and take 1 year off, especially in tech, if you are a bit lucky and so on. But yeah, we are a bit away from the natural way of doing stuff. It's and that's why burnout comes. And yeah.
Yeah,
this is
totally true.
Yeah.
But you touch a point that's also very interesting, because you were talking about these personality traits.
Yeah.
And that some are more towards more this creativity approach, others more as a doers and following others. And it's very hard to change people. Like if you, like for us,
almost
entrepreneurship is what we love. So we cannot handle or cope with on the other side of entrepreneurship. But the other way is also true. If you try to bring people to the entrepreneurship,
yeah, correct.
Simply you cannot.
Correct. For me was like I was like in my mind, like look, it's very simple. You have to think about ideas, and you have to. I was super young back then, didn't know shit about stuff, and some of them were okay. Some were trying, and the others were like just. But you have to tell me what I need to do.
It's very hard. People these traits are very characteristic of each one of us. So it's very hard to change. But and there's no rule that fits all, and there's no correct world. Like entrepreneur is not for everybody. We really like it, and we feel that it's our way to be happy and to also be successful. But it's not, unfortunately, not everybody can do it, because I'd love to work with more friends and have people be also having this also independence and freedom and the power of choosing what they want to work on and build.
Exactly.
But
Exactly. You know, like
it's sometimes hard.
For me, I think this is the most so choosing what you will work on. That's I think the fact that you made that choice and you are making the choice to be. I could be, I don't know, like right now I don't have like a clear constraint. I could be out for a movie, so Tuesday morning I can go for a movie, and I don't do it, and I don't feel the slightest need to do it. On the other side, if I am at a job where my creativity, nobody asks me, okay, do you want to work on this or and so on? I'm always dreaming. I should be out at a movie at this point. I mean, like it was a meme on Twitter actually a few days ago of like I'm working 80 hours per week in order to avoid a 40 hours work week. or as an entrepreneur, yeah, so something like that.
But that's what makes us happy.
Yeah, exactly. It's I've chosen to do this. It's super. Instead of I was imposed and I need to, yeah, whatever.
We then continue our conversation talking about connections and how important these connections are for us. Because they're a particularly interesting part of Daniel's way of dealing with Twitter is to not only rely on the normal connection that you do on Twitter and just focus on this interface, but transposing those connections to the offline world and really know more about the other person. I think that's where the magic happens of interacting via the social networks that exist today. So let's see what he thinks about it.
For example, and this is actually how we met. I decided to give Twitter a chance. By default, I hate social media. I think not hate, but it's more like a like contest and whatever. I mean, yeah, I get 1,000 likes, but I cannot connect with anyone. And I was amazed by Twitter, to be honest. So by then I've been on Twitter for like actively being on Twitter for 1 month and something. And I met around 4 or 5 people, actually had interactions, know their story, helped a bit. I sent info, got tips, and so on. And it's
also I'm also super enthusiastic with the way we can engage on Twitter, and especially going much beyond what's public. Because I think there it's where you can really make the connections with people. It's not the public likes or public comments. It helps. The comments gives already a next level of interactions, but it's still very superficial. As soon as you start connecting with people offline and meeting them on video call, when I mean offline, it's outside of social networks.
One-to-one.
Exactly, one-to-ones. This is really where magic starts to happen, and you can create connections with people, and at some point, this will transform into something greater.
Correct.
One challenge I see is also how to keep these connections alive throughout the journey.
I know.
That's the very challenging part, because coming to the first interaction point, as we are talking now, this is somehow easier. If you are willing to do that, it's somehow the easiest part. But then afterwards, keeping engaging with the people and keeping this connection, keeping this this tie alive, it's super important and critical to have a successful relationship.
I so agree. And I think it's very important on here because you were mentioning this in one podcast. I don't remember exactly which one. I think the last one. The fact that you are interested, and I'm exactly interested about how to meet people that, okay, maybe initially they are not real friends, but there is a big chance that they become real friends in the long run, and have the same interest as me to build my real network of people and not the ones that are, because this is one thing that I don't like about jobs. Okay, we are interacting daily, and after that I leave the company, or the other guys leave the company, and that's it.
It's that. It's very rare to keep connections from unless you really foster it. It's super. And most of the connection that I created in my previous works, they no longer exist.
Exactly.
But it's also it's not only because of the other person. It's mostly also because of us, because we don't promote that, because we don't have a system, we don't have a way to keep these constant pings of useful information and start or keep interacting with people afterwards.
Correct. And this is one thing. So there are two things. First of all, I'm thinking it would be nice. Okay, you can discover people on Twitter, but it would be fantastic to own your platform, to own the contacts, and to nerd. What's the term in English? To foster them to. So this is super important. And on the other side, I was thinking, there is that famous article by Kevin Kelly, 1,000 True Fans. I don't know if you know it. And I was thinking, okay, 1,000, it's a bit too much, but what if I get like 50 real connections in my field? Let's start from there and see how it goes.
It's much better to have few connections that are really useful and real connections than a lot of people just with very weak ties between you and them. So it's truly makes sense. So, and it's I think people neglect that a lot.
Yeah,
because we tend to look into the followers, to look into the how big.
Look, let me give you the
best audience.
Example. On my side, I've been always like in email marketing. I think it's a fantastic tool and so on. On my side, I've started to collect email marketing emails from day one. Right now, I'm 2,000 and something subscribers at the newsletter. Not that because it's been online for 5 years, so it's not as impressive as. But anyways, so 2,000, a lot of people. I send emails and I stay a lot to compose the newsletter. I regularly send them for the past 5 years now. Each 2 or 3 weeks, I'm sending one. You know how many replies I got back? 3 replies, out of which 2 are actually asking me some discount for a course that I've. On the other side, this is funny. On Twitter, I've been for 1 month and a half. I'm already having some sort of a connection with 4 or 5 people, like on a daily basis. I know about their ideas, their
I have mixed feelings about the emails list. So to be honest, I think it's a good way to own the contacts and to have an audience somehow, but it's also a very fragile communication channel.
Why?
Because most people, or like especially if you send newsletters and so on, they either go to the spam or they are simply. I have a tendency to subscribe to a lot of newsletters. I barely read any of them.
No,
I have time because I don't see. But it's true that things are coming. One day it's the randomness that needs to happen also to be successful. It's sometimes you might come at the right time, at the right moment for someone, and it might convert. So that's true, especially you own it. So that's a good thing. But that's why I have mixed feelings, because I think it's not super effective, but it has high potential to, and especially because you own these contacts. So especially if you move, you don't rely on a specific network and you don't.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Slightly different.
It really got me thinking how can I own my contacts? How can I? It's Twitter is the same. I mean, now it's super nice, but okay, what if tomorrow
suddenly it stops?
Yeah. So
definitely true.
This is something that really keeps me thinking. How can I own my connections? It's quite important. I don't know.
Yeah, it's super important, especially as I wouldn't say content creator, but us that we want to also to create some kind of true audience. It's super important. I was listening to the talk of the founder of Patreon, Jack Conte.
Yeah.
What this weekend, it's super inspiring how he was also sharing how the internet evolved from the web 1.12, 1 or 2.0, and then how the social networks came into and transformed the reach for your audience to really true fans, and also what he's working on Patreon. Of course, it's really towards that direction. But the talk is super inspiring.
I know. He's a cool guy. I mean, he's an entertainer.
He's a good speaker.
He knows how to speak. But indeed, I didn't know because I've listened. I've sent you a message. I've listened also to that thing. And I didn't know that initially on YouTube, if you're posting something, everyone was seeing it in the feed, which is like, wow, super cool.
It was um, the simplest algorithm.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why the people when social network started.
Exactly.
But it's now we are losing that, and we are completely. And I feel sometimes I have a very strange way of using Twitter, not super rigorous on that. So I need to change my way. I go just scrolling, and if I have the chance that the algorithm shows me something, I'm lucky, and then I can make this connection. If not, I'm completely dependent on the algorithm, and that doesn't let me.
Exactly.
I don't feel comfortable with that.
Look, like what I've seen, and this is not on Twitter, on many mediums. You get a couple of people who are having millions of followers. And I think it kind of also sucks for them on a connection level. Okay, money-wise is fantastic for them, but on a connection, you cannot connect to 1 million people. you will not. I think the guy who has like just 100 contacts and actually keeps in touch with them is much more connected to his audience that someone who has like 1 million followers and is not able to reply is just noise. He will just push down information and or she, and that's it. Yeah,
but I'm not sure if it's an issue, because you can also think of having your audience as the business audience and then your true connections. So you can kind of split it. And I've seen also several indie hackers that they have offline groups of smaller indie hacking people. And that's where they really feel connected with them. So basically Twitter is just their business
good point.
front store, basically. And then they really connect with people outside with Telegram groups. And sometimes you see popping up people, I'm collecting or I want to create a group of founders in this. This or at this stage of their journey. And then you try to create, and there are quite some communities also around. And I think that's really where these things can happen. These connections are really could really be good. So it's a question of also being open, but the Twitter is really your main channel to acquire new connections, but it's up to you if you want to make them sustainable in the long term, successful or not.
Indeed.
And not all of them will transform into business, but it's also, I was listening to some podcasts from David Porkus, and he has also a book, which is The Friends of Friends. Because it's not your direct connection that might help you in the future. It's also the friends of your friends that might, that influence you and might really, somehow you might have opportunities based on that. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this conversation that I had with Daniel and that I could extract the best parts of it. We kept chatting for longer during this conversation, but this was essentially what I wanted to share with you. I think it was very, very nice, and maybe I'll do that in the future. So if you want to chat with me and come to the show, let me know. But essentially, I want to keep sharing what I think about building in public and about building my new products, how I'm navigating in this journey. Because I don't know where this is going to go, but I know that I'll keep sharing and I'll keep building. So I hope that you want to keep building with me. And until next week, I wish you a great time and see you soon. Cheers.